Hello, my fellow readers. Dark Symphony 777 with another fanfiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe, shout out, click on that bell for notifications. Leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story, and finally, listen to my opinion. My opinion is indicative of the world, so please respect that. So, the story I'm doing a review of today is Ice Hearts by Grass and Cloud 2. This is part of the Luniverse. And oh boy, I think this marks about the halfway point. Because I started started Luniverse around the beginning of May. So I'm like around the halfway point of May, and now I'm like halfway through the series. I technically finished 2 more stories after this, but those I'm going to review tomorrow. But Ice Hearts. This is a story I have mixed feelings with. I like the story. I like the 2 technically main characters of the story, but everything else surrounding it, I'm not really a fan of. So, what is the plot about? Well, the plot is actually centered around a specific character. Where's her name? Prusens Noctuliant Up. How the hell do you even say that? Optiburus Golo. For context, this is one of the 2 stories that are technically epilogues of the Night Court story from season 1. The other one being, I think it's this one, being this. This is the other sort of epilogue type story. Because if you didn't know or didn't watch my review on at the Grand Galloping Gala, in context, they were 3 very corrupt. They were basically the Night Court, which is basically the government's body that Luna was basically having dictate like how to run Equestria. Most of them were corrupt, and at the head of at the level of corruptness was Duke Greengrass, who was, for all intents and purposes, the main villain of season 1. He was the main overarching villain. Vicereine Prusens, who this story is technically focused on, and Archduke Fisher, who was going to be the main villain of this story, if I remember right. Hopefully I'm right on that. Compared to Greengrass and Fisher, Prusens is a more interesting character. I want to actually talk, and I'm going to talk about this more when I talk about Prusens as a character. Prusens is very different from Greengrass, who main plot line in season 1 was that he wanted to start a coup and basically overthrow Luna. And Fisher's just a legitimately horrible person. Just all the way around. But Prusens is very different in that not only how she operates, but how she is, while still corrupt, is more corrupt in like a very, very subtle, sneaky way. She's not overtly corrupt like Fisher and Greengrass was, but she still is very much a corrupted person. But the overarching plot is she basically gets news, Vicereine Prusens gets news that this random Wendigo, let me actually get the picture up. These things you see right here just randomly showed up in like one of her provinces, looking for a child that it had with a pony. No idea how that's physically possible. In fact, in story they kind of like wonder how the hell is that even physically possible. That it's looking for his son named Iceheart. Here's the thing: Prusen has Iceheart. She does not want to let him go because of 2 reasons. One, she really doesn't trust the Wendigo because like the Wendigo is like kind of portrayed as like a sort of pseudo eldritch abomination in the story, and she's like, that's very dangerous. I don't trust that. And 2, Prusens is very much a collector of the strange, and she's also very, very, very controlling to the point where she basically tried to force her son and daughter, her daughter, son and daughter, when they were made. I don't know which one. I don't know which one's like the one that she was related to. Which one's the step? So just like the married couple who's like she's their grandmother for. She tried to forcibly name the man that she named their child. It's like I am Prusens. I am the Vicereine, and I want to name that child. No, I'm gonna ruin your life. And it's very, very coy because it's a type of story where she is technically in the right and technically in the wrong. At least in terms of like the main overarching plot, because I'm gonna spoil this. She actually wins. She actually wins in the end because her whole entire plot in the story was just that she just wanted to keep Iceheart and deal with the Wendigo as it sees fit. That's what happens. In the end, the Wendigo's kind of dealt with, and she still keeps Iceheart. So she wins. She actually, the bad guy actually wins. However, in terms of the rest of the plot, it's a very simplistic plot, more or less. They basically she finds out about the Wendigo. She realizes because everyone thought Wendigos were a legitimate myth, so they weren't expecting something like this to happen. She tries to wage like the pros and cons on like how to approach this. She decided, okay, I'm going to take Iceheart with me from the vault. Basically, the vault is like the area where she keeps all of these special, like unique ponies and stuff like that. That she basically can control and basically give them anything they want as long as they like unconditionally love her. Her plan is, I'm going to take the Luna Main 6 because we don't know for sure if the Elemental Harmony is going to work on this Wendigo. I'm gonna take him with me. I'm gonna take Ice Hearts with me, and we're gonna try and negotiate like a timeshare, like a visitation, stuff like that. They go to the area where the Wendigo is. Most of the main Luna Main 6 are just there for the ride. The only three ones you gotta worry about are Trixie, Cheerilee, and Ditzy. And Ditzy's the other main character of this story. Cheerilee's just there to kind of source the conflict at the end. And Trixie is there for storyline reasons. Mainly due to trying to keep the peace between Ditzy, Cheerilee, and Prusence. Because this is something, and this is another thing that I really like about the story. The story very firmly places that both Ditzy and Prusence as being right and wrong. In context, Ditzy believes Prusence is wrong because you have all these special ponies who she collected and grabbed because they were actually ruthlessly bullied and implied to be possibly persecuted for some reason, for being different, for one of the ponies having like two sets of wings, or one of the sculptor whose wings are like completely atrophied, so they're just kind of hanging around, or another pony who's appeared late in the story who looks like Celestia but is not really Celestia, and she provides all this shelter and stuff. But you gotta play my more rules. I can give you anything you want, and it kind of and that's more or less the main conflict. Is Ditzy's just doesn't seem to grasp like what she seems to think that the vault is like inherently evil, because even like the other ponies are like we got bullied, we got picked on. She gives us an actual education with like experts who also live there, like with Kieran and stuff like that. She literally buys us anything she wants, so she leaves us alone for the most part, because at the end of the day, Prusen's core characteristic is she's just a collector. She sees them as art pieces, so she's not. It's not like she's actually abusing them or even like manipulating them. She's like, I just want these things to own, to basically just have like possession of. As long as they're in fine condition, I do not care what they do. And this idea, this philosophy doesn't sit well with Ditzy because she's a mother, especially when she finds out that two of the characters, who is an old pony, which means he has like he's basically magic just kind of goes around him, and a sea pony wanted to have kids. She's basically like, oh well, what happens if you have a normal pony? Then they'll just turn into a bully because you're different and you're like horrible and you can't have it. And she just completely loses it, and so she's constantly at loggerheads with Prusens. But again, it's framed in a way that Ditzy is going overboard with the whole thing because she doesn't understand the whole context. Because again, a lot of the ponies are actually like legitimately happy there. They're not being abused. They're not being manipulated. Well, I mean, manipulated you can technically call it manipulation because it's technically bribery, but she's going to, again, Prusens is a collector. She's not like treating him badly or using him for like any dastardly deeds. She's just keeping him there just to keep him. And Prusens is kind of in the wrong because at the end of the day, the story makes it very clear she's a massively manipulative control freak who, if given the chance, like she even like forcefully got rid of her family. Like she never killed them. She just said, "Oh, I don't live in Equestria anymore." It's like, what happened to your grandson? Which one? The one that you don't like? Oh, I heard the Griffin Aries. It's a very empty place this time of year. In essence, both are right because Prusens is trying to help these ponies. They are like letting them even one of the ponies, Tim, is like a best-selling author, and she lets them like do whatever they want. Like she doesn't really stop them from doing it. Even then, she's even okay with like if they want to leave, I literally let them. I'll give them enough money so that way they're stuck for life. Because at the end of the day, she knows that they're never gonna leave, and two, even if they do leave, she still gets to have a sense of control over, a sense of possession over them. So depending on who you are, it depends on like who do you really side with, and that's ultimately the core of the story. The problem is once you get past that core dynamic between Ditzy and Prusens, the entire plot kind of just falls apart because the entire story is just like either Ditzy arguing with the Vault Ponies, Ditzy arguing with Prusens, or Ditzy arguing with Trixie. Because, and the reason why Ditzy's arguing with Trixie is because Ditzy is constantly getting pissed off over the simple fact, like, why you keep defending Prusens? And Trixie's response is, I do not want the single most powerful pony in Equestria because earlier, like in the previous review, I said that Viceroy Nightlight, Twilight Sparkle's father, is Luna's number one and has a lot of power. However, he's not the most powerful member of the entire Night Court. That's Prusens. She has control over two provinces. She's constantly collecting more. She has like who knows how many she puts into humanitarian tears. She is pretty much in charge of Equestria's finances. She's in charge. She's in charge of the money of the entire country, and she's very good with it because she's knows how to use authority and judgment, and also a auditor herself. That's right. That's right. In the first chapter, instead of like going like showing like anything about like Equestria what they're doing, this first chapter is just about Viceroy Prusens auditing her own company, which is the main place that's in charge of all the finances in Equestria. To try and if I audit hard enough, I can get some money out, put it into like more stuff to kind of help with other things that with other projects I want or other people might want. and make use of the money. If it benefits me, yeah, you know what? But it might benefit other people too. Uh, and more or less, the rest just like again, once you get past Ditzy and Bruce's like the arguing between them. Oh, I didn't even finish Trixie and Ditzy's argument. Okay, I completely got ahead of myself. Trixie's argument for constantly having to stick up for Prusens, pretty much deal with Prusens, is due to the fact that if you read Grand Galloping Gala, Nightlight base the entire source of that plot was basically Nightlight barely trying to like wring Trixie's neck financially by trying to like stall the finances to Ponyville, because he does in that story he doesn't admit like, yeah, the money was already coming. I was just trying to stall it as much as I theoretically could, because at the end of the day, Nightlight was just an upset father who at the time lost his daughter because she became the most wanted woman in Equestria, and he's basically taken his grief and not being good enough to help her on Trixie. Prusens, meanwhile, is one who has way more power than Nightlight, despite Nightlight technically having Luna's ear. Prusens is in charge of the finances. Two, Vice Prusens would actually go out of her way to completely fuck over the loot, like everyone in Equestria, and get away with it because she's smart enough to actually know what to do from a legal sense compared to Greengrass and Fitcher, who will completely just say, "No, fuck the rules." She'll go, I will fuck you over within the rules as hard as I physically can. And more importantly, most importantly with Prusens, is very, very determined to screw them over if they piss her off explicitly enough. Remember, Nightlight was doing it out of pain. He wasn't really. Hurting Ponyville was just a side effect of hurting Trixie, and he was barely trying. What would happen if they try and piss off the most powerful pony in Equestria, who would try to completely screw them over? So Trixie is also in the right because he does. I don't want. We literally dealt with Greengrass like a couple months ago. I don't want to do that with someone who's worse than Greengrass. Play it, Dizzy. Don't do something stupid. But once you get past all that, the story is just like we can move into the characters with this. Like you have all the Vault Ponies. None of the Vault Ponies are really they're just plot devices instead of characters, because they're really just there to basically stick up for Prusens. And that's fine. Carrot Top, Raindrops, and Carrot Top, Raindrops. Oh, no, I'm having a brain fart. And Lyra are there for the same reason. They're just there because they kind of have to be there to use the elements of harmony. Trixie is just there to keep the peace and kind of and help Prusens with communicating with the Wendigo, because the Wendigo only communicates through like visions, so they need a translator. Charlie's just there to set up literally just there to set up the final chapter, where she basically confronts Prusens, argues with her. Charlie and Prusens just get frozen solid, and that's it. And Ditzy is really good. I like Ditzy. She comes off very much like a flawed character. Again, going back to what I said earlier, the story makes it very clear that while she does have a very valid point, she is also in the wrong. Basically, again, depending on how you look at things, she could either be right because she really realizes that what Prusens is doing is basically emotional blackmail, taking advantage of people for her own benefit, but at the same time, she's going way overboard with it. And she's a really solid character. She comes off as very much a very caring mother. She's because she's that's how she's seen the whole situation as like a mother because like, oh what you have family, you can't see your family, you can't talk to your family out of fear that the vault would be realized, and her slowly kind of getting more and more agitated because the Wendigo is actually like pouring its magic into the hotel where where most of the story is taking place, where everyone's arguing. It's pouring magic. It's affecting Prusence and Charlie and Ditsy the most, and they're actually getting more agitated easily. And it makes it kind of sad with everything how everything's planning out. And then there's Prusence. Boy, I love Prusence. Well, first off, Prusence is very clearly inspired by Cruella de Vil. Cruella is arguably my favorite Disney villain of all time. Let me get a picture of her in case you don't know. Like this bitch. This bitch right here. My favorite Disney villain. Because I love how she's used in this in 101 Dalmatians. Prudence is very clearly based off Cruella. A very like an overly controlling, vainglorious, power hungry woman who selfishly wants to hoard everything. The difference between Prudence and Cruella is Prudence is not truly evil. She's crooked. She's crooked and corrupt, but compared to Greengrass, who's very clearly was willing to do illegal actions and very much take over Equestria because he wants to. And then Fisher, as we're gonna find out later, Fisher's just basically a warmonger who just basically wants to hurt people. Prudence is very much willing to work with people on the side of good. Again, her core characteristic is she's just a collector. She just wants to collect things. She wants to collect titles. She wants to collect providences. She wants to collect the care and sovereign of people. In essence, she doesn't care if she has to work with someone she absolutely hates. And the story makes it very clear she doesn't really like the Luna Main Six, but she's willing to put that aside in order to keep something that she's collected, basically Iceheart. In the sense that okay, I'm working with. I know you don't like me. Yes, we don't like you. I don't like you either. But this is more pressing. It kind of gives Prudence the idea of a more morally gray character than like the more evil to good character that Greengrass has become, and the more obviously evil Fisher is. She's technically like the middle ground between those two, in the fact that she'll do whatever it takes as long as it benefits her, or maybe even if it's like takes place a while in the future, she's like, yeah, send the money. Like she'll actually donate to the poor, donate to like Providence is giving like parties, repair boons, but it's all like very facetious and very much a sense of virtue signaling. That's basically what type of character she is. She's basically a virtue singular, but she's actually willing to back up her words in the sense that, hey, she'll put in like the act, like that's actually something I don't like with a lot of selectivists is like they don't actually back up their words. Like, oh, we gotta help the planet. Okay, why don't you plant some trees and do it? I don't want to do it. But then why? All right, but you said you want trees to be planted. Yeah, I want other people to plant trees. Why not you? Because I'm lazy and I want to do it. She's being hypocritical. Fuck you. Meanwhile, with Prudence is very willing to not only back up what she does, she'll dive head first into proving a point. She had no reason to go with Iceheart for the Wendigo, but she did it because if she didn't do it, then there's a chance, one, I'll screw up, and the Wendigo will probably take Iceheart, and two, she is perfectly willing to deal with what could possibly become something that is actually dangerous to Equestria as a whole. I was willing to put aside her hatred and probably her possible grudge against the main six for the sake of just trying to keep a pony who is obviously who was being bullied and keep him safe. It just like Ditsy, it portrays her like a very she on one side she's right, on the other side she's wrong sort of mentality, and it's really good. But it doesn't help the fact that every other character in the story is just a plot device just to set up Ditzy and Prusis arguing. It's really it's really tedious, which is what I say about the pacing. The pacing is just very tedious because there are also parts. Where is it? I think it's this. Uh, where is it? Yeah, right here. Like this, how like there's these things where the story takes place from Prusen's point of view, and it just goes on a random, wild, long tangent on like some random stuff. Like this is just talking about wine bottles and like the various people who bought us like a series of 9 wine bottles in a wine store. And I get it's supposed to make sense of like not only her vanity, but also like her mindset of like seeing everything like in abstract like monetary pictures. Like, oh, I can sense out. Oh, this wine bottle is being sold for this much, but a chef comes in, says the bottle missing. Okay, you can take this. She sees the receipt and realizes, oh, there's a there's a book deal for that. Oh, that's actually smart. She sees everything like how to keep up the idea of collecting more and more. Like she'll collect wine, like with this, she'll collect wine bottles. Uh, and see it like how she can either like spend it or try and give it to someone and stuff like that. And even the story kind of implies that she's like her heart is thawed a little bit, like because she gets to have Ice Heart talk with Ditsy's daughter through like magical orb, and she would really wants it because she doesn't want it because it puts the risk of finding out about people finding out the fault, but she realizes Ice Heart really wants this, and she doesn't really want to risk endangering Ice Heart and basically leaving her. She'll be like, yeah, you can have the friend as long as it's like just don't meet face to face and stuff like that. So again, and also she helped out like a grieving widow, and at the end she actually asked her like the Celestia clones like can you find Red Heart and see if you can find out where she might have what happened to her, showing that even in like showing that she's still controlling, she still has a heart, and she still is willing to put that as like put greed vanity aside if it means possibly keeping up with someone. It makes Prusen's like a very complex character. Pacing, but I'm not a big fan of this because it's just very long winded. I get there's a point to it because it plays into Prusen's character. I just don't like it. Grammar wise, I think there is like one or two grammar errors across the story, and that's more or less it. Would I recommend this story? Yeah, actually, I would. I do think this story is very good. It's very it's very one sided because it's hard carried by two characters, and the whole story kind of bends around those two characters' interactions, and so that could rankle some people's idea on like how a story should be told because it can come off as very artificial because oh you're not like making a world, you're just making a story where like two like and everything kind of warping around these two characters. So I know people are like hit like or hate that sort of idea. I think it's fine because Ditsy and Persons are that well written. Favorite part probably the first chapter because it shows a proper mindset of who Prusence is and how she's different from Greengrass and Fisher. And would I change anything? No. I mean, I would want to get rid of those long sections, but that wouldn't do much and possibly put at risk at ruining Prusence's character. So I don't want to take a chance with that. Yeah, but that's other than that, I wouldn't change anything. So yeah, that has been Ice Hearts. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.